At Delaware Orthopedic Specialists, you're never left in the dark. Not only are they the only fellowship-trained surgery center here in the state of Delaware, all of their providers are also specialists, which means that they're focusing on each and every part of the body specifically, so that when you come in with knee pain, you're getting a doctor specifically devoted to that. Wrist pain, wrist doctor, foot pain, foot doctor, so on and so forth. Why would you go anywhere where you're just going to get a general doctor that knows overall body when you can get somebody that knows the ins and outs of your exact injury? They're going to hold your hand and walk you through each and every step of the process so that you won't have any questions and you'll know exactly what you should be expecting. My family and friends trust DOS, and you should too. Give them a call at 302-655-9494 or head on over to delortho.com. Let them know that Talkin 215 sent you. And after they give you phenomenal care, head on over to Google, give them a great review.
Welcome to Talkin 215, your go-to podcast for everything you need to know about Philly sports. Whether you bleed green, trust the process, fly with the Flyers, or fight with the Fightins, this is the place where we break down Broad Street. Jake, Shawn, and Joey deep dive into the heart of Philly sports culture, breaking down games, roster moves, and sharing the stories that make the 215 truly legendary. So grab a cheesesteak, settle in, and let's get to Talkin 215. Now here's your host, Jake Biasato.
What is going on, everybody? We are back after a brief holiday hiatus. We got your boy Shawn rocking with me, and then Tomahawk T-Bone Steaks having a little bit of internet issues. Said he's going to be joining in here momentarily. Shawn, happy America to you and yours.
Happy America, baby. Happy birthday to the greatest country on the planet.
Damn straight. What'd you do for the 4th? Anything crazy?
I sat inside and listened to all my neighbors shoot off fireworks until far too late into the evening.
Yep. Sounds about right. I went down to the beach. It's lovely. You know, went down to Bethany, hopped on the beach, watched the fireworks. Good show. Long show. Since when are fireworks shows like 25 minutes?
I think that's
Seems
about the
long.
going rate for it.
Yeah.
It's more of an attraction nowadays. I don't know. I guess it depends on how big they're doing it around there.
Yeah, I mean, they did it up. Like the finale was grand, as they say, but no, they did it up. But I was just like, man, this is a long show. And then obviously, you know, you're sitting in all the beach traffic, getting back to the house and everything. But it was a lot of fun. God bless America and all that. God bless the Phils. Obviously, a little bit disappointing in that Brave series. They did what they had to do and win the first one. So then, like, no matter what, they only at worst could drop a game from compared to what they went into it at. But obviously, like, you're missing Schwarber, you're missing JT, you're missing Harper. So there's a big asterisk there. But it's like when they face elite pitching, you kind of see them fold a little bit. I mean, unfortunately, Coach had some work stuff come up last second because, you know, he'd be licking his chops to jump in and talk about this. But, I mean, you see kind of what they're doing compared to elite pitching, and it's not super, super encouraging.
Well, that's just it. I mean, it's elite pitching. Sometimes the pitchers are going to win that battle,
Yeah.
especially when you've got your highest paid players, your biggest performing offensive players that are out. Like it's going to happen. And then you throw Michael Mercado out there against them, and you're just begging the Braves to get hot, right?
Meatball Mercado.
Just what his first 2 starts. I mean, he was throwing meatballs right on over the plate.
Yeah.
He just wasn't playing good enough teams to really take advantage of that, right? The Cubs just aren't a good enough ball club to really, you know, ring his bell. But the Braves are. They're kind of underwhelming, you know, first half of the season, but it's a good ball club. You know, they just rocked them, man. They did no mercy. Welcome to the big leagues. And you hope they didn't just allow this Braves team to get hot for the next however many games.
No, I mean, you've seen it kind of with the Braves. They've got hitters and they're suffering from injuries just like the Phillies are. But Mercado, man, like you said, the Cubs, they were barreling up balls and he was getting warning track outs left and right. But that's all they were. They were warning track outs, and the Braves just weren't falling for that. They were just slapping into the gap or over the fence at will. And that game was over well before it even started. And you just kind of see, like, what are they going to do with that 5th starter? Obviously, the top 4, you're pretty darn happy with. Like, Christopher Sanchez obviously had an unfortunate start, but Wheeler's out there dealing right now. Nola's been doing real well. Suarez it seems like he's had 3 or 4 now. 3 or 4.
Yeah, his last month has kind of sucked. I don't know exactly what's changing. I don't know if Marchand just isn't very good at calling Ranger games, or if that's just part of the growing pains of bringing a catcher up like that. I don't know who exactly is at fault, but yeah, man, it really the shine, the magic of Rangers really has gone away. He needs to get it back.
Well, bringing up Martian, I'm going to ask you your thoughts on this. It's been a pretty good sample size between Stubbs and Marchand for that backup catcher role. Once JT comes back, I think it's the debate's over. I mean, other than bunting, DJing, and vibes, what is Stubbs better at against Marchand?
It could be calling games with a couple pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, not
Honestly,
Wheeler. Wheeler, we already talked about it. Wheeler's ERA is 4 points higher with Stubbs. Obviously, a much smaller
right.
sample size, but
And
he's 4 points higher with Stubbs than with JT.
And I've been trying to pay a little more attention to just that over the last, however many games or so since Marchand's been up. But man, it really just feels like these starters are just getting rocked. It's going to happen over the course of the season. We talk about Sanchez Suarez allowing 8. And that was a Marchand start, and then Stubbsy had the one game against the Cubs where we let up 10. So I really think they're just taking turns, just the entire batteries, just totally shit in the bed.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you named it, Marchand just at the plate, at the very least, from what we can very clearly see, leagues above Stubbsy. And Stubbsy's been playing better than he normally does.
Yeah.
Right. He's kind of stepped it up in JT's absence, but it's still not as impressive as Marchand.
No, I mean,
especially being a guy that just was in AAA, just got called up. Like, this guy's the limit.
No, I mean, I'm pretty sure since I was looking at it, since June 2nd, Stubbs is like 11 for 50 or 12 for 50, something like that. And like, that's him stepping it up. So you're saying like, yeah, Stubbs is stepping up. It's still a 210, 215 batting average. Like, it's still shit. And like, I was debating somebody just an hour ago on Twitter, and I said, I put a tweet out, like, if when JT comes back, Marchand isn't your full-time backup catcher and the Phillies aren't serious about winning baseball games. And you had two people jump in there being like, okay, but you're wrong. And I was asking him, I was like, okay, other than vibes, what does he do better? And they were like, chemistry is important. I'm like, yeah, I get that. Like,
okay, but how do you build chemistry? You build chemistry by being with the team, by being with the guys, by having that experience. This is what we have from Stubbs. We know it. He's been working with these guys. He practices with these guys day in, day out. Marchand's brand new. So he still has a ways to go in terms of calling the games, in terms of chemistry, right? And at that, he's clearly superior.
They were talking locker room chemistry. They weren't even talking pitcher to catcher chemistry, just that he's the big vibes guy. He's a locker room. He's glue. He holds the team together, stuff like that. Like, I get it. He's a great DJ. He's a great vibes guy. Rafael Marchand is better at the plate. He's better defensively. I mean, the guy does not balls get past him. He's manipulating that catcher's mitt in ways to keep the ball in front of him like crazy. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. I mean, he's superior at everything other than bunting. Like, when it comes to true baseball sense, he's superior to everything than bunting. And when you're bringing up chemistry, once you're on the field, chemistry's gone. Like, if you're talking about locker room chemistry, like, they're not sitting there being like, oh man, I wonder what Stubbs is doing right now. Like, they're going to be sitting there thinking about, all right, what's this guy's tendency? Where do we have to play this guy? Does he pull? Does he push? Where does he usually go? Where did he go last inning? They're not going to be sitting there worrying about Stubbs. Sure, they love the guy. They're going to stay in the group chat with him. They'll ask him for recommendations on songs and everything. And somebody brought up Rafael Marchand's injury history in the debate. And I'm like, I get it. So then if you're all that worried about it, Stubbs might be back up when his back flares up again. But right now, you got to play it like hockey, what they do with goaltenders. You ride the hot hand. Right now, Rafael Marchand is the hot hand. And why would you go away from it?
I mean, if you're me, you don't. Because vibes, what's the wins above replacement? What's the war on vibes? Right? How much does that count towards your war here? It doesn't.
No, exactly. And they brought up that we win under Stubbs and all. And I'm like, all right, but like when Stubbs was coming in earlier this year, we weren't losing anything.
Well, we had a full roster, right? The only person that was out was JT because he was taking a day off. Right?
No,
Marchand's been up. Marchand's been up since the roster's been depleted.
Yeah.
Right. You don't. I mean, that's the whole Schwarber at leadoff argument. Like,
yeah, we win with him at leadoff, but nobody in baseball really thinks he's a good leadoff hitter.
But you're not winning games because of that. You're not losing games because Marchand is behind the plate. Right? Correct. You're losing games because half of your starting lineup is out.
Correct.
And
now look, we got him back in, and we're up 9-1 against the second team in the National League.
And vibes, baby. You think that's not good for vibes? Is
I,
whipping up on the Dodgers?
I think
That's
it's
better for
probably,
vibes than anything else. Everybody's gonna be dancing. It doesn't even matter what the song is.
yeah. And they won't be dancing on their own.
I am so glad I have not heard that song. I heard the remix to it like 2 days ago, and I realized I had not heard that song at all this season, and it was an amazing feeling. Keep it out of there.
Tommy Stakes in the house here. Tom, obviously you don't hide the fact that you're more of like, you like the Phils, you love the Phils, but you're more of a casual baseball fan.
Yeah.
Watching this team, seeing them what they've done, I mean, you've been following Philly sports for decades. What does this team look like to you compared to other teams that have gotten you excited as more of a casual baseball fan?
Oh, this is literally like this is probably the best team I've seen since the Ryan Howard, Chase Utley. Like
Yeah.
they are. I mean, the last couple years, like the team. I mean, yes, I think obviously getting Trey Turner added to a team that was already pretty solid. Like, but really last year and the last 2 seasons, like going on those playoff runs, it was like, all right, is this team just like kind of that? Are they going to just peak out at that? But then, like, finally, here it is. Like, they put it all together in the regular season. They're one of, if not the best teams in the entire MLB. So it's like that window just opened. It felt like when they were in the playoffs the last 2 years, just going on those runs where it was kind of like they were a lower seed and climbing the ladder. And now it's like they've officially opened the window where they're like a threat to win the
Yeah.
whole thing from start from front to back, and that's just a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of said like, "Oh, this Phillies team, the only thing they're missing is regular season success. Like, you
Right,
can't always rely on getting hot and riding that momentum.
right,
Like, it's
exactly.
nice to kind of be a front runner, and now you're seeing it. You're seeing this team go out there. And you brought up Trey Turner. I mean, Shawn and I were talking before we went live here. Like, Trey Turner, we had said like it was a guy that we weren't really worried about last year. It was a guy that like, or at least I wasn't. Shawn said kind of said it was a long slump, and it was, but good baseball players with that amount of pedigree, it happens where they just lose it like the switch of a light, but it's very rare. And so I knew his baseball just greatness was going to come back to average, if not exceeding it. And right now he's only a number of at bats short of being eligible, but if he had those at bats, he'd be the number one batting average in the National League right now. I mean, the guy cannot stop getting hits, and since he's been called back up, he's hitting for power. I mean, he must have what 6, 7 home runs in the past 12 games.
Look, when you're talking Trey Turner as like the team's best player, sure, but when you add him to a team with all the guys the Phillies have, it's just like stacked. It's insane. It reminds me of like the Eagles, and now with the Sixers adding. I'm not even going to get into the Sixers, but let's just keep it with how the Eagles are stacked. It reminds me of that. Like they're going for championships just like the Eagles were.
Yeah.
And your casual fan like me recognizes these names just from being great around the league and just making a name for themselves in Philly too. So it's insane. Like I don't really like I know you guys can dive into every like day of baseball and all that, but when you're like zooming out and looking at it from a whole like just a holistic perspective, you hear guys like Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and you're like, man, this is all one team. Like these guys are studs and they're just all on the Phillies. And obviously there's tons of guys, the young guys, like the young guys are what makes it fun with Bryce and
Yeah.
Stott and then you have your old reliable Kyle Schwarber, like, and they all play these different roles. It just reminds you of that World Series team. It really does.
Oh yeah, and I mean Stott's not even playing that great right now. I mean he hit a home run tonight, but Stott's been at the
Yeah,
plate at
yeah,
least has
exactly.
been poor.
That's the thing when guys slump, like Shawn was talking about Ranger, like, oh, he's lost that magic. And it's like, yeah, he was never going to stay that hot. But when he falls off a little bit, other guys can like come up and like, okay, but they still have two really great pitchers and then they have a great lineup. So it's like any given moment, like they can win with any sort like assortment of batting and pitching. And it's just like it's that complete team. Now, I don't really know much about their bullpen. How is their bullpen?
I mean, that's what I was going to bring up. Like their bullpen, like even the guys that we talked about that really worry us. I mean, Soto worked himself in and out of a jam tonight. He loaded the bases and worked himself out of it without giving up a run. But Sir Anthony has been on a 2+ month stretch of less than 3 or 4 earned runs over 2 months. Soto's been having a number of good starts. Obviously, Hoffman and Strom, they're all stars for a reason. They're two of the best relievers in baseball right now. And then Alvarado he's been really struggling, but when they pull Alvarado out, are we all holding our breath? Like, it seems like when he gets shelled, it's kind of like, damn, they got him. But not like, oh, geez, they're bringing Alvarado out. Like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, shout out to Caleb Cotham getting Strom and getting oh goodness, I'm blanking on his name right now. All-star bids here.
Strom and Hoffman.
In Hoffman, yeah. I mean, these guys, Strom's been struggling as of late, but I mean, been just totally lights out up until the last
he still has
week
a sub
and a half
2
of the
ERA.
season. Right. So it speaks to the body of work so far this season. Alvarado hasn't looked dominant. Ultimately, are too many more runs scoring? No, but he's been getting runners on first and second, what feels like a little more often than normal.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we didn't even bring up the rookie. Like, Orion Kirkring is going to be he's going to be a force in the bullpen for years to come.
I mean, that guy's just shut it down, right? I mean, we haven't talked about him enough. He's been solid. He's been fantastic from beginning to end. I mean, if this was, only because the All-Star voting is a popularity contest, or else Kirk would be right there with them too. We'd have 8 All-Stars.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that Christopher Sanchez and Orion Kirkring weren't All-Stars is only because of the rule that every team has to have one. And then so you'll have guys be like, oh, okay, we're going to take a reliever because nobody can hit for shit on this team, or we're going to take a starting pitcher because of the same reason. And so you just run out of spots for these guys. But Christopher Sanchez and Orion Kirkring are deserved All-Stars. They just missed out because there's 7 other Phillies that are All-Stars, and every team needs to have one. But both guys are playing at well above All-Star level play.
And you know what's great about the Phillies being so great in the regular season? And, a lot of times we look at other teams around, every league and say, regular season team, they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. The Phillies, every Philly team, I feel, thrive off that Philly energy, that home field. I feel like when Philly teams are the 1 seed, when they have that special season, they're not like a playoff flame out. Like, they really make you pay when you have to come to Philly and play games in the playoffs. So I just feel like the Phillies getting home field is it's not going to be like they get upset by a lower team. I feel like and I know last year when they had the little collapse at the end there, it was the year of collapses for our teams last year. But I feel like coming to Philly and playing is not easy, and they really thrive off the energy. So I'm looking forward to some playoff.
We got to get you to a playoff game, man. We got to get you in October. We got to bring you along with us.
Oh, I know. I was there. I went to a game. I think it was game 1 against the Marlins last year.
So, Tom, you're obviously huge Eagles guy. Everybody knows you on Eagles Twitter and everything. I've made this debate a handful of times on the podcast, so I want to ask your opinion on this. I don't know if we brought this up with you or not. I've argued that there is no better home field advantage in all of sports, in all of the main 4 sports, than Citizens Bank Park in the postseason. And people are like, oh, the link is nuts. And I'm like, look, this is not disrespecting the link at all. But let's be honest. Every single NFL game is going to be sold out, if not 75, 80%. You know what I mean? You're getting that crazy energy. You're getting loud. And the link takes it to another level. Like, they're one of the best in the NFL. But in baseball, where you're getting a football atmosphere, I mean, you had Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, other guys come in that went to these postseason games and like, damn, it felt like we were in the link. When you're getting football players saying you're getting that football sense in a baseball stadium, that takes it to the next level, because it's the slow sport. It's the old man sport. It's the sit around on a Sunday during the day. You're working on the garage with the game on, listening to Fransky on the radio. You're taking a nap with the game on in the background. And then you get the link kind of energy in Citizens Bank Park. I mean, Shawn, we were at game 3 of the World Series 3 years ago, whatever it was. I mean, you stopped and you could feel the concrete bouncing. I mean, you could feel the stadium moving.
The entire stadium was doing the worm. Just not the people, the concrete, the foundation, the structure was shaking. Like, there's no chance the players didn't feel the ground doing the worm. Like, it was insanity. I thought the place was going to collapse. I was genuinely like happy but worried. But if I die, I'll be fine.
Yeah. No, and like so that to me is why Citizens Bank Park in the postseason takes it to another level. Like you're bringing up, oh, like you front run. You see the Braves, they had that week off, and then they get obviously trounced by the Phillies back-to-back years. Like, are you going to run into that? I think we're kind of in a situation, like, knock on wood, but we're kind of like slump proof at home in the playoffs because our fans won't allow us to start slow. Like we will be like, we will punch you in the face, put you down, put my foot on your throat until the very last pitch.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm never going to switch on the link in the playoffs. But I'll say this: I've been to a couple Citizens Bank Park playoff games too, and I can say that the energy is unique. It really is like that really like intense atmosphere. And to be honest, as that more casual baseball fan, like you said, throwing the game on in the background, taking a nap, whatever. I go into the playoffs and I'm like, man, this is like what I love about baseball. And I'll watch like other teams' games too because I love how intense it is when every game really matters, every pitch starts to matter, every at bat starts to matter, and like that itself, even watching on TV, is intense and like breathtaking at times. So being at a game, it's just oh my gosh, I should show you guys. I'll show you guys at some point the videos I took like last year when I was at the game. Me and one of my buddies went and we were going absolutely crazy. And yeah, I got to get to another one of those
Oh
because
yeah.
it
No, I
is a
mean
special.
Sean and I's doctors will tell you like playoff MLB season, we are in rough shape. I mean, our resting heart rate every day of the week because it's every other day. You're just stressing. Every
I get
single at bat,
white
you are
hair in the beard. I get wrinkles. I get crow's feet. It's 24 hours of stressing because football, you win a game and you breathe a sigh of relief. You've got like 5 days till you have to worry about the next game, right?
Yep. Yep.
Baseball, you're like, great, that's awesome for like 30 seconds. And you're like, oh shit, we have a game tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my
why
God.
I can't do. I couldn't do it. I give you guys so much credit for doing the long haul, the grind, the 162. I could never. I can never do it. And you know what? I love it. I love the 16, 17 games, and yeah. But October's a special time for Philly when the Phillies are great and the Eagles have high expectations as well. It's September and October are my two favorite months of the year, and I'm just so excited to get these 2 months, this last like month and a half almost out of the way, and just get to it because I'm excited for the Phils, and I'm going to a Phillies game at the end of this month, boys,
hell
against
yeah.
the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah,
There you go.
July 27th, Saturday.
Should be a good
Um,
series.
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
be there on the 28th.
Oh man, yeah. God, missed you guys by a day, but yeah, we did the Saturday game, and it's definitely gonna be fun. I know the Guardians are really good. So it'll be a good series, hopefully.
Well, Rafael Marchand is now 3 for 3 with 5 total bases, and
They're
he's
killing
brought his
them out there.
averages up to 313 with an OPS of 936. I mean, can we just stop the debate? Like, I get it. He's a good vibes guy. I love Stubbs. He's a great guy. He's chugging
That's
beer.
all you're getting pushback for is his personality, right?
Yeah.
Martian does he speak English? Is he proficient in
Probably not.
English? I think he's got the interpreter that comes up with him every time they speak with him. That's all we're talking about is people like him. This is baseball. People love the humans, right? People get to know each other. People get to see what the players for their favorite team are actually like. They like Stubbs as a guy, right? They love the Sinatra, they love the DJ, and they love seeing him with the big goggles on, throwing champagne on everybody. That's it. They're not talking about his play on the field. They know his play on the field is because what's the argument? It's a backup catcher. Who cares how they play? It's a backup catcher. That's all, right? But
And
clearly the backup catcher is getting some playing time. So
Yeah, clearly it's important. And look, if he continues to hit like this, having another bat off the bench that you can be like, damn, this guy can get me a double. Like you got Stubbs coming up a pinch hit. You're like, okay, so we're bunting, right? Like you bring this guy in for a pinch hit for a bunt. You get Marchand up there, like you're like, okay, I'm not super worried. Like, oh, automatic out.
no, not at all.
What are some of the most legendary all vibes guys, like first team all vibes in Philly that aren't that great, and don't really matter that much, but people just like fell in love with them for some reason. What are some of your favorite memories of guys like that in Philly sports in like our generations? I'd say who?
Boston Scott.
Boston Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking for even more. Like he actually scored and was on the field. Like I'm talking like, man, like some backup. I feel like backup QBs are easy targets for it. Like
Yeah.
people love like a Gardner Minshew, and it was like, yeah.
No,
He was
it's a good
very
one. Gardner
cliche
Minshew.
vibes guy, like the mustache, the living out of the trailer. He looked like he
Yeah.
was trying to aim for like a Levi commercial
He has his own little fan base.
contract. Yeah.
No, like hockey's always a good one to pick because you get these fourth liners that you're just like, oh, the guy gets out there, he throws his hands. You gotta love to get behind.
Donald Brashear.
Donald Brashear is a good one. Like Zach
Different
Ronaldo
vibes.
had a kind
Very
of a
different vibes.
Yeah.
But good ones.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
on
like,
your team.
Zach Ronaldo kind of had a cult following for a little while. People either loved him or hated him. He just went out there and just messed people up every game. Like you got these hockey's a much easier one because you just automatically have guys that you don't expect much from. I'm trying to think.
Hoskins a good vibe guy?
He was like decent though. He
Reese
like
Hoskins, yeah. I mean, he was a starter though.
Plays.
So you have to be a bench warmer to be a
I don't know. Just a guy with low
I'm just trying to think of
expectations.
people that were like more beloved than they were talented.
Hoskins,
They were talented. Yeah,
Hoskins, you had good expectations for. I'm trying to think of like, a Sixer. Like obviously, hands down, number one's TJ McConnell.
Definitely all the scrappy little guys.
Top vibes guys,
TJ
McConnell.
Guy on the bench for whoever the 12th man is on the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, seeing him score, seeing him go off in Indiana and say, "I'm a fucking dog," like seeing him say that, like you're like, "Yes, you are, TJ. Yes, you are."
The Sixers always end up getting guys like that. The fan base falls in love with so fast for like a really like Paul Reed, like B-ball Paul, and no shade on Paul Reed, solid, but like I mean,
no, he's not. He's bad. He's not solid. He stinks.
No,
now he can go stink on another team. I think Orlando picked him up or something.
Yeah, Detroit. Yeah, it was Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit. Yeah. Have fun.
Yeah,
I mean, just Philadelphia fans just really love when you have like basement expectations and exceed them a little bit. Like they will do so much more than the superstar that's playing up to the appropriate level.
Yeah, like take your anger out on AJ Brown, but like people are trying to say like, oh, but they should get like Jack Stoll more involved. And it's like, what are you talking about here?
Yeah, Grant Calcaterra has so much potential.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, Jack Stoll had a great mullet, man.
The Reed Blankenship overreaction.
Hey.
You know who I think could get fan favorite status, but more so, like rightfully so, is Will Shipley. I'm starting to come around on Will Shipley a lot.
White boy Will, baby.
I like him.
He's a white dude playing as a position player,
a
skill player.
I think he's like he's overcome a lot of adversity in his life.
I mean, let's be honest, he's automatically going to be rooted for because he's white.
Yes,
and yeah, I mean he's gonna get like the snot pounded out of him a lot, and pop right back. If he pops right back up, he's gonna be like Rocky.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. I mean, the first time the guy goes for a gain of 6, right? I mean, he's going to become a cult legend. Like he's going to have the number 2 selling jersey for the Birds this season. The first is going to be Cooper DeJean. Like it's just going to be the white skill players, and then everybody else. DeJean
gets like a pick 6 in like the game in Brazil, and like he picks.
They will have a shrine made out of mayonnaise the moment he gets back.
He needs to just get a pick 6 and just shake that ass in the Brazilian end zone.
Man, I think Eagles player that was more vibes than anything else was definitely like a Freddie Mitchell. Like, and he gave us some bad vibes. But back in the day, when he played,
we had before T.O., we had nothing at wide receiver.
I know, and then when T.O. got here, he became like a kind of useful like little slot weapon and made some big plays. And when he hit that belt celebration, oh man, like he was. Yeah. And then he had that big playoff game.
I mean, speaking of white guys that were vibes before the fall off, like Riley Cooper was loved for a while before he went and became hated.
I'm not co-signing this. No, we're not doing
Jason
this.
Avant was a big vibes guy.
Jason Avant
Yeah,
was a big
he was a
vibes guy.
third down chain mover, but he was also a very good locker room like leader. Him and
Okay, but we love the guy for being a third down chain mover.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly. Oh, I
average
love the
yards per
hands.
reception, 10.1 yards per reception, just over the chains.
Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, on that Carson Wentz team, before we got actual wide receivers, we had like Jordan Matthews. He was a big
No,
time.
Jordan Matthews after his rookie season, we were like, we got a guy.
Yeah, and we just
Like
didn't.
900 yards rookie year, we got a
I was
guy.
so happy. Yeah, I thought that guy was gonna be. A
Also,
stud.
if my laptop dies, you guys just finish the episode without me. I'm down at the beach. I got my backup road gear all set up here,
Oh,
and
cool.
I'm missing my dongle to be able to charge and record at the same time.
Well, we
So
can I mean, it's 9:15. I get to bed early anyway.
if it dies, you guys just keep her rolling.
I'd be willing to wrap up like a shorter episode anyway.
Well, we got to talk a little birds with tomahawk
Yeah,
steaks here. I mean,
yeah, we're kind of getting into it, but hit me with some questions. Let's do some rankings. Let's whip something out of your ass.
no, I love it. I mean, obviously, there's still positions of concern. There's still positions that we're really scratching our head about. Like, do you feel as though Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is going to be a year one impact guy, or is he going to be a special teams guy that might see 5 snaps the entire season combined on defense?
I think you got to zoom out a little bit here and understand that the roster is still very much under construction, or at
Yeah.
least
Oh, yeah.
it could be.
Yeah, there's still going to be at least one linebacker, if not 2, brought onto this team.
Yeah, the NFL is all about the waves of roster construction and player movement in the offseason. And what's going to happen is every team is going to go back into their training camp. All 32 teams are going to report to camp, and they're going to start evaluating their players. And the position groups they don't feel so strongly about, or they suffer an injury in, they're going to try to make a move for a guy that's sitting out there. There's still a couple of veteran safeties out there like Eddie Jackson and Justin Simmons. There's linebackers available. I mean, we could literally go grab Zach Cunningham and just have him come back and have like the same linebackers, but Devin White added. So, like at the end of the day, they need bodies, because you don't even look at just Jeremiah Trotter. You look at what happens if Devin White gets injured, or what happens if Nakobe Dean, who's been injured, gets injured. Then you're really like forced to use guys that are experienced, that are hardly even pro ready linebackers. So they're still constructing this roster, and I think,
hands down.
yeah, I think that that you're going to see some trades, you're going to see some pickups, either one or the other, a combination, and yeah, they're going to round it out. So linebacker is one of the positions I'd say is huge to watch.
Oh, without a doubt. Any fisherman will tell you that that is probably the best noise that you can possibly hear. You're sitting on the boat, or you're sitting on the dock, you're reeling in your personal best fish, you got your buddy recording it, and what are you wearing but some raggedy old t-shirt that looks like crap? Why have that incredible moment ruined by not having on the best high-performance fishing shirt that you can get? That's where our friends at Tackle Up come in. Tackle Up is a fishing lifestyle and apparel company that is making some of the finest, highest quality fishing shirts I have ever worn. Also, we may have a Talkin 215 exclusive shirt on their website that you definitely need to check out. TackleUp.com. We know a ton of you go down to the Delaware beaches during the summer season, so when you're down there, you have to head over to Bethany at the corner of Atlantic and Garfield and check out Tackle Up's new storefront location, selling Grundens, Hoo-Rags, and of course, their incredible design of high-performance fishing shirts. Definitely check them out, and while you're there, tell them that Talkin 215 sent you. No, I mean, wide receiver 3. Who we feeling? Paris Campbell as the proven guy, John Ross as a guy that apparently really impressed in OTAs. Like, we thinking about why am I blanking on his name? I mean, I know Johnny Wilson, and then we drafted Anais Smith, yeah, that people really loved.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's going to be a competition in camp.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I know that. I'm saying, like, who we leaning towards? Like the way too early guys that were like, yeah, I'd love to see John Ross figure it out. Like, I'd love, like, where are we feeling?
I think it's going to be Paris Campbell, but I also think that
proven track record.
Yeah, I think he's going to win the coaches, because he knows Sirianni, and I think he's probably also the best out of the group, most proven, like you said. And it's kind of his job to lose right now. But I also think that you're going to see a lot more mixing things up with Kellen Moore. You're going to see AJ in the slot, Devontae in the slot, running backs, tight ends, a lot more motion, because they're overcompensating for what their offense was over the past several years, and they're asking Jalen what he was comfortable with and moving that stuff over. But they're bringing a lot of that Kellen Moore stuff in, and I think he uses certain weapons in certain positions in different ways. And I think that you know what would be a slot receiver in Sirianni's where it's just he plays in the slot. I think you're going to see guys move around. So I think you'll see Paris Campbell play some outside, some John maybe if John Ross makes the team, he would play outside for snaps or in the slot. Like I wouldn't slot guys in to certain roles at this point. I want to see this offense and how they use guys before saying anything like that.
Shawn, are we fully just in Stoutland we trust? Or are we worried a little bit about center, right guard? We worried about Lane getting a year older. What do we?
So I certainly I think Cam Jurgens is going to step into that center position and be exceptional, right? I'm not saying he's going to be Hall of Fame level. Obviously, there's going to be some drop off, but I'm expecting that to be somewhat minimal here. I mean, what we've seen over like a couple seasons of Cam Jurgens, he's had some rough games at right guard. Center, though, I think it's his natural position. It's what he plays.
He was hand selected by Jason Kelce.
Hand selected by Jason Kelce. And I'm not saying Jason can't be wrong, but at this point, I don't think he is. He's had enough tutelage under Stoutland, under Kelce, right? I think this is the perfect year for him to start this job. He may have a rough game here or there. I wouldn't expect more than one or two, though. I expect him to get off and running and be an exceptional pro. Right guard is where I'm a little more worried about. Okay, they've got Tyler Steen, unproven. This is a guy that I haven't seen what other people seem to like about this guy. He was a rookie last year, so he has all the room in the world to improve, but I just didn't see it. Right? I'm hoping, but I don't know. I'm just kind of wishing that he takes that jump from year one to year two. You've got Mekhi Becton, what it looks like. He's going to be getting some work over that right guard position. Who knows what he's got left? Who knows? This is a top 10 pick originally. Of course, he's going to be coached under Stoutland, but there's a reason why he's been a bust so far in the NFL. Usually that's more of a work ethic kind of thing. And I don't think that there's a coach out there that if you aren't willing to work, that he's still going to get the best out of you. So that right guard position, I'm much more concerned about than that center position. Yeah. But yes, I am worried ultimately.
Tom, what are you thinking about it?
Well, I kind of compare those two interior. Well, the center position is something we have to deal with, and we haven't had to in a while. So I think Cam Jurgens is really good, and you can't say he's going to be Hall of Famer like Shawn said, but we're going to leave that alone. We have to roll with Cam Jurgens. So the right guard position, it kind of reminds me of when they were in the Super Bowl season, the 2017, when they played Isaac Sayamalo. I believe it was at left guard, and he kind of lost the job to Steven Wisniewski, and he was a veteran that just came in and took the job and rolled with it. So that's kind of what I see with Steen. He's a guy it's gonna be his job to lose, but there's guys pushing to try to take that job. Mekhi Becton, like you mentioned, and then also there's Matt Hennessy and we signed another veteran. I'm blanking on his name right now from the Cincinnati Bengals. And there's veterans in the room. There's bodies in there, and that's not a position that I'd say is solidified. Though they want it to be Steen because it makes the most sense. I feel like they're going to give everyone a fair shot to put the best 5 players on the field. We know 4 of them. So,
Tom, I got a question for you. So a couple of days ago, Lane Johnson was being interviewed, and the interviewer asked, "Hey, do you think the issues that we faced from last season are gone?" Right? And Lane Johnson said, "We'll see." Right? What are the issues, or possibly even who are the issues do you think that Lane Johnson was referring to when he said, "We'll see"? Because he's clearly not sold, right? So what do you think he's talking about?
I did not actually end up seeing that clip, but I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of these guys have the mindset where they don't want to give away anything. They kind of they don't like to talk in depth about things to the point where you're blaming anything. So I think keeping it open ended is just something that they always do, and some of them. And I'd have to see the clip though, and see how he said it, but he could be referring to just the overall vibe of the team with how they changed a bunch of things up, brought some players back, and everyone wants to know, are they back to being a winning squad, or are the people that are writing them off right? So we'll like you said, we'll have to see, but we're gonna get our answers soon. So I'm excited for it.
I'll have to find the clip because neither of you guys listened to the interview. I couldn't tell you who it was with. It was probably just a smaller, I don't even want to say a smaller interviewer, but because I personally took away from it that it's very likely Sirianni that this team isn't terribly sure about, because we had the Hertz incident that, he's like, I don't know what he's really installing into this offense. I don't know. Right. And then to have the we'll see answer when he asks, like, is the problem gone? I don't know. We'll see. Like, there's only but so many times you could I don't know, about face to the question and kind of keep things close to the chest without actually saying no. There's no problem, right?
Yeah,
There's a couple stars on this team that think there's probably some growth to happen here. There's probably some ways that we can improve. There's some room for improvement. So
yeah.
I'll have to listen, have you guys listen to it, and then ask your thoughts on it next week.
Well, I'll say this, and I said it last year going into the season, that Nick Sirianni has a really good opportunity to grow. And I don't think it really happened much last year. I think they were stuck in a lot of their old ways and they didn't evolve anything. And I can't really blame them because they took a team that won 4 games to a 9-win season and made the playoffs, and then they went to the Super Bowl in the next year. And so going into last season, it was like, why would we change anything? All the stuff we're doing is working. Like we've been so successful taking over this team and transforming it that we're just going to keep doing that. And I think they relied a lot on things that just teams caught on to and things like that. And then Nick Sirianni also, I feel, could be a little more mature in terms of his emotions and the way he interacts with people. We always see on the sideline him being really emotional, and sometimes there's a time and place for that. And then I don't know, I feel like sometimes he's got to kind of take it down, and got something in my eye, it's bugging me. um but yeah, he's really just got to learn, like, when it's his turn to step
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
As a head coach, that's just what it is. So
No, you're absolutely right. You don't learn a ton when you're doing all this winning here, right? It's kind of when you get punched in the face, you figure out how to stick and move, and you
right.
really learn the chess behind the game of football.
Mhm.
So that last month and a half, 2 months of the season, that was definitely him getting punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely him needing to grow as that leader, right? You talk about him getting a little too high when really, athletes, you're probably looking for your head coach to keep things even keel throughout the game, right?
Right.
You
Right.
don't you don't have a cheerleader out there. You have a guy that's calming you down and making sure you execute to the highest standard here. So
Right.
I think we'll see a lot more of that. I mean, again, I'm a little worried. This team has a ton of talent around it. These coordinators, I think, are fantastic. They're coming in to do exactly the jobs that they excel at. I just I don't know. I don't know what Sirianni's adding to the table here. I don't like, I'm not trying to sit in here and say the guy does nothing. Clearly, the guy's going to do something. I
Mhm.
just don't know how we're going to show that this guy is growing, and like what sort of quantifiable measures we're going to see out of him to say, damn, Sirianni is really improving as a head coach.
Right. Right. No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what that's an exact conversation that I had with a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago, because he's been really doubting Sirianni, saying that they should fire him and make Kellen Moore the head coach, or they should have fired him beforehand and before the season he wanted him gone, or before the offseason started when they decided to bring him back he wanted him gone. And he keeps saying, like, we need a guy that calls plays, we need a guy that does something, because if not, then our OC is just going to keep getting poached every time we're good as head coaches, and then we're going to continue to just get new offensive coordinators because our head coach doesn't do it. And I was like, all right, well, like, if the team's good, I'm just worried about that. And eventually we got to the point where he was like, "Well, I need to see something from Nick Sirianni." And I said, "Well, what can you really see? If he doesn't call plays, he doesn't design the plays, then, like, what are we really judging him on? Like, if the team's good, you're going to just give credit to the coordinator." So, it really is a question, and like it's like Do you think he could be on the hot seat during the season? Like, I mean, if the team stinks, but if the team's good, how do you explain like firing your coach and making the OC the head coach like in the middle of a really good season? So I have no idea. I think they're more concerned with just having a great season right now and with all the coaches they got on this roster, and they're trying to win. Like you can't even honestly, the NFL is so based on parity for the most for 99% of it, other than like the one dynasty team that's always in the league, Chiefs, Patriots. Um, but like nowadays it's so every other year anyway that it's almost like just take it 1 year at a time. Like there's no point in like committing to anything crazy because things change so fast that it's like you might as well just take a big swing, and if you miss then just reload for a year and take another one. And like you're not going to go every year anyway, so you might as well try to be a team that just has a bunch of shots in the chamber. And I think this is one of those years. Last year I said, obviously we were all confident and I was excited about the team, and I'm always going to be excited about the team. But in reality, it's tough to go back to the Super Bowl and back to the Super Bowl and back. So I think this year the Eagles gained more than they lost, and if they end up losing Kellen Moore because we had a really great season, then I don't know how much I'll be able to complain about that.
Right. No, I'll be the first to tell you, I was very much on the Fire Sirianni train the day after the season ended, the week after, the month after, right? I mean, if you're constantly getting your offensive coordinators poached, right, it's because you keep having fantastic seasons,
Right.
right? So it's a good issue to ultimately to have, and it's something that I probably shouldn't spend a whole lot of energy really worrying about.
Mhm.
All that you can hope for is that Sirianni actually takes something from these guys, right? Did he take anything from the offensive coordinator last year? Is he going to take what is he learning from Kellen Moore, right? I mean, you don't really think of that because he's the head coach and Kellen's the offensive coordinator, but you better be learning something. It doesn't matter what position you're in. If you're expected to improve from year over year, you better be taking something a little bit here, a little bit there from everyone around you,
Yeah.
right? Offensive, defensive, right? So all you can ask for is that I mean, all you can ask for is that your offensive coordinator gets poached. You're probably going to the championship game, the NFC championship game.
Yeah, at least. And it's and what is the on the same token, it's like NFL fans always get in these panicky paranoid modes and start overrating people too much. Like Kellen Moore's been around, he's been around for 6 years now in the NFL. If he was head coach material, wouldn't it have happened? Like, not to say he'll never get one, but couldn't they just as easily after a good year say, well, yeah, Kellen Moore was great, but it's been with like a great offensive cast in Dallas, like Dak and Amari and CeeDee, and then he comes to the Chargers and they don't really do much, but then he goes and has Saquon, Hurts, AJ, and Devontae. So how good is Kellen Moore versus the teams that he's just had? Like maybe teams don't think of him as a head coach candidate. Number one. Number two, our defensive coordinator has already been a head coach and hasn't been that great as a head coach and already kind of past that phase. So I don't think he's leaving. He's also a little older. We could get him for a few years. And if the league isn't super sold on Kellen Moore as they haven't been, and they look at him as just a guy that's benefiting off of a really elite cast, like, hey, if we can't bring that kind of cast along with Kellen Moore, then what good is he as a head coach? Then I think maybe they could have some carryover and they could stick, and maybe they have two years with this same coaching staff. And one of those 2 years, you make a big run at it. And I think that's kind of the mindset there because you can't think, oh, well, we can't hire this guy or we have to fire Sirianni because what if he gets poached and da. Like just as easily, it could be a different thing. And maybe we end up hating him. I mean, people are doubting him as an offensive coordinator. Let's not forget that. You have tons of fans, tons of media saying this guy is not the real deal. Eagles fans are being tricked. So we'll see. Have the
Yeah,
good year first, and then let's see what happens. You know what I mean?
right. This is a little too much ado about a guy that hasn't been responsible for a single offensive snap for the Eagles,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. And start to fall in love with this thing, and you're like, oh my god, what if he becomes a head coach? Let's see it first. Like let's see something first. You know what I mean?
If he becomes a head coach, it's probably because he deserved to become a head coach,
Mhm.
deserved at least a shot, right?
Yeah.
So, like I mean, you made a fantastic point. How many times are there dynasties that that supersede for years after year after year? I mean, there's only but so long you have as far as a window goes. If this guy's getting poached, we probably went to the Super Bowl. We very
Yeah.
well went to the championship game, and we'll
Exactly.
take it, right? If we win a Super Bowl, none of that matters.
Yeah, none
Not
of it
a
matters.
single. It
Exactly.
doesn't matter if he did it with a good supporting cast, a bad supporting cast, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter if he fails as a head coach.
Right.
Not one
Exactly.
bit. We don't care. We
Yeah,
don't
we
care
don't.
at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, you take your swing and you worry about the rest later. Like Kellen Moore brings, maybe he is only a flash in the pan kind of guy that you have for a year or two, and it's like has these innovative ideas, and then he goes somewhere else. It's like, but we got the most out of him. So, and we move on and we find the next guy. And if we have a bunch of coaches, that's what I like about this staff. People are talking about what if Kellen Moore becomes the head coach. Vic Fangio was already a head coach. Clint Hurt, our D line coach, was a D coordinator last year. We have guys on this staff, I feel, that not only at the top are really strong and experienced, but throughout the positions are really strong and experienced. And look, if a bunch of them get hired and poached and promoted, it's because we put a great staff together and we had a great year. So I can't think about that stuff. I'm focused on having the great year first. And if we have a great year, sky's the limit for this football team with the talent we have, man. We're well coached.
Just take a look at what some of the questions we had earlier were, right? We lost Jake, by the way, if you haven't noticed already.
Mhm.
But we're talking about the backup running back. We're talking about a fifth round linebacker, right? And we're talking about who's going to be starting for our third wide receiver. All
Yeah,
things I'm sure we're going to be complaining about halfway through the season. Don't get me wrong, but we could be having much worse conversations here,
yeah,
right?
yeah. We're spoiled right now, and people don't realize that haven't been through the trenches with the Eagles. Like there's seasons where we're like, I don't know, man. I'm behind them, but phew, man, it's you're not looking forward to it, you know?
Right. The hope is what we all hope to have during the season, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there's been some seasons that have started, 2-5, and you're like, well, shit, what am I going to do for the next 10 weeks here? Like, I'm going to watch them, but I'm going to be tuned out. I'm going to be a zombie. I'm just going to be sitting there eating pretzels, like just throwing them, just full of malaise at the television. Like,
yeah,
all we can ask for is to be jacked up, win more games than not, right? And keep the buzz through all 17 weeks here and into the postseason.
yeah, yeah. It's when you sit down at that home opener and that first splash of dewy beer goes right down your throat.
That little, what was it? Fuzzy pants? What's it called? Swishy pants. Yeah. The
Yeah,
first swishy pants on a hot day, right? Where it's football season, but it's still 91 degrees on the turf.
yep,
Yeah, it's
yep.
gonna go down real good.
You love every second of it, but no, yeah, they you know that they got to do what's right for the upcoming because you don't get tomorrow. In the NFL, you don't get tomorrow. You're oh well, maybe Kellen Moore is going to be a head coach. Like no, you hire the guy. Like you don't. Who knows about tomorrow? You know what I mean? You want to win this year. You might only have Sirianni might be canned if we have a shitty season. So he's hoping that Kellen Moore rescues his whole operation right now, and so are the fans, quite frankly. Um, you have a lot of chess pieces. How do you not use them? You know what I mean? I mean, like, Kellen Moore deserved the reins to the offense. We saw it last year. The last and pre-snap motion tells the whole story right there. Why aren't you using your talent? I really like this analogy, and I think you'll like this analogy as well. When you give a big, and another content creator. Shout out Joey Shakes for saying this analogy. When you give a big time movie producer a huge budget, they they can rely on special effects to carry the movie. But if you give them a smaller budget, the story will carry it. They'll have to focus more on the story and the plot and all that and be creative in that way. So you're giving Kellen Moore this huge budget and he's going to focus on the story. Could be a home run. You know what I mean? I mean, Vic Fangio might be more up against it. We have a lot of inexperience, a lot of youth on the defense. He's going to have to really fine tune this thing to get the most out of it. But offense, we're loaded with talent. You can't just go let the talent carry everything, like letting the special effects. You still have to focus on the details. And if they can do that with the talent we have, you're going to see an offense like, think about the Miami Dolphins. Why are they so fun to watch and creative? And we're just out there running like, oh, AJ Brown made another crazy contested catch again. Like, I want to see guys lost out there. You know what I mean? We have the
Yeah.
talent to do that.
all we did was win just going off of talent, right? We
Yeah,
were the more talented team,
every
right? There
time.
was no one point we out executed, it felt like, or
The
I mean,
defense
certainly
got blown up every week, it felt like, no matter who the opponent was. And or if the defense was decent, then the offense couldn't move the ball. It was terrible. It was no
right,
complimentary football. It was horrible. Yeah, and you're right. We didn't. It's not like we were like every play like, man, great call, great drive, great. Like that was so limited. How many times do you remember seeing like DBs like throwing their arms up in the air, like who had him, who had him? It was always some big play by AJ or Devontae or Hurts making a run or making some sort of crazy escape and throwing downfield to somebody or like in traffic like the touchdown to Olamide Zacchaeus against Tampa last year where Hurts hung in the pocket, guy pops open last second and he finds him and throws like a dot. It was always Hurts throwing a dot or somebody making a crazy catch or
it
both.
always felt like I'll give you a hell of a reference in Hey Arnold, right? Where the sixth graders would play football against the fifth graders, right? And like Torvald was just beating up on what was it like Wolfgang or something like that. I'm butchering the names.
Dude,
I'm
these are
going
great.
back too far,
No,
but
no, you're good. I remember those. That's crazy. I didn't know you said them, but I gotta look at. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it felt like, man. It would just be nice to play a little circus ball out there from time to time, A little
Yeah,
get a little Harlem Globetrotters in there, right? You got the Avengers Endgame of
yeah,
budgets and of star power here, right? On defense, you might have a little Godzilla -1, a little cheaper budget, but we're gonna make it work here, right? We're
right,
gonna make
right,
sure everything's on point. The details are there. Everybody's where they need to be. The physical effects are there. No more adding shit in post, right?
right.
We're gonna make the best of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. Absolutely love it. And to be honest, it's a great analogy for our offense, Avengers Endgame, because we really do have the Avengers on offense as well
We
as
did.
the movie as far as it's like the spectacle that it will be is
Yeah.
going to be insane. I mean, you add Saquon Barkley to an offense that was cooking with guys that you see don't can't even scrape 10 yards in a cloud of dust. And these other teams like Carolina or Detroit, these guys are being questioned as if they're even good, if they should even start. DeAndre Swift in Detroit gets shipped out. Miles Sanders goes to Carolina. He's terrible. Gets benched for Chuba Hubbard, who's more productive than him. And it's like they were in the Eagles, they were 1,000-yard backs with 12
Yeah.
touchdowns. And they're adding Saquon, who's been a 1,000-yard rusher 3 times for the New York Giants, who've had nothing. And I think everyone focused on just O line. It's not even just the O line. It's the fact that he has a competent quarterback who's a threat. He has weapons everywhere that you have to focus on. This is going to be like Saquon Barkley is going to be, man, this is football. Like what I
Yeah.
was
I mean,
this is football.
Saquon with the Eagles versus the Giants. It's gonna be like Captain America just getting Mjolnir, right? Just the hammer just rips into his hand, and he's ready to whip ass because he's been practicing. He knows exactly what to do with that damn hammer, and he's about to lay it down. Just you wait.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you heard him. He was like, first day of practice, seeing Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown in the huddle was pretty crazy. And it's like, yeah, dude, this ain't no Daniel Jones and like freaking Jalen
No,
Hyatt or
this
whoever,
isn't.
Sterling Shepard, and like those guys. Man, like this is again, I don't like disrespecting guys and acting like they didn't make it to the highest level of football, but let's be honest, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are they are what they are. You're looking around at those guys and you're like, man, defense have to worry about them and me. Like, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, he's taken the play from Jalen Hurts and not Danny Dimes, right?
I mean, you guys remember? I mean, you might. I don't know if you remember how much I was into Bijan Robinson last year in the draft. You might. I was very high on getting Bijan, and we
Hmm.
got Jalen Carter, and I'm so thankful we got Jalen Carter. But the idea of having an elite running back, and Bijan Robinson is a freaking stud, by the way. I think he's going to have a great year in Atlanta. Looking forward to going up against him week 2. Saquon Barkley can add that kind of element. An elite running back, like just him alone, is an attention draw. The only reason you try to stop like DeAndre Swift more specifically is because the Eagles have like a great run game. It's not just like, oh, DeAndre Swift specifically is like this super dangerous guy. Teams know Saquon Barkley is a legitimate elite threat. So they're going to game plan all week to stop that guy. And then there's all these like it's honestly just I don't think anybody, if this team stays healthy, I don't think all these haters and detractors are really ready for what's about to happen on this football field this fall.
I'm telling you what, right now, just seeing a team game plan for him, and listen, that first lining up under center, that first play action pass that goes deep is
Oh,
going to hit like crack in the 80s. I'm going to tell you right
dude,
now.
I'm telling you, I was thinking about this earlier. Like the Eagles' offense was so built around quarterback draw, using him as a runner, using him as a threat, RPO, giving the defense the idea that he could run at any moment. Kellen Moore's is not like that. He is not a lot of it was zone running and shotgun and a lot of the offense that Kellen Moore runs is more about creating space and mismatches and doing different things and using motion. And I feel like we're going to see a lot more Jalen Hurts being more of that like distributor and facilitator with the football and beating teams with the football and letting him just kind of delegate to his weapons. And I think that too much we relied on him to be this like ultimate weapon. And I think last year you saw him, he didn't have as much of a willingness to do that. I feel like he didn't want to run as much and he had the knee thing he was dealing with. But I think he knows that like longevity and durability is the most important thing in this sport. And he's gonna have to be in an offense that you see him take that next step as a passer and be a facilitator with the football and utilize all these weapons like a point guard. And I think he's going to do that in Kellen Moore's offense. I think that's what Kellen Moore's offense is really friendly with in terms of quarterbacking. You saw Dak Prescott made more of a leap in Kellen's offense, in his fourth year as a starter, and that's what Jalen's going into. So I expect to see a different Jalen Hurts and a different looking Eagles offense. And yeah, play action, man. Oh my goodness, Saquon, you have the weapons, you have everything to do it. So I expect huge, huge, huge leap and huge changes.
Yeah, so you definitely saw Hertz be much less or much more reluctant to be that kind of Swiss Army knife last season, right? Whether it was the coaching or whether or not the NFL just beat it out of him, right? But
Yeah.
he doesn't need to be that anymore. He can just be Jalen Hurts, right? So we are up against it, man. We just pushing over an hour and it's getting late over here. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
my camera's dying and it's getting late. But
Yeah.
any final thought tonight?
Yeah, man. I mean, keep rolling with the Phillies. Is the month we go into training camp with the Birds, so we got to keep it rolling with the Phils. We got the Birds coming back, and then they're gonna roll right into October together. I just got pumped up talking about it on this episode, so I can't wait.
Oh my God, I'm so jacked up for a little cool October air. Bring it to me. But we got the dog days of summer up. Let's go, Phils. Crush these Dodgers. We got was it Sanchez pitching tomorrow? Let's sweep them.